Karl Noldan is enjoying his career progression in horticulture, despite being dissuaded from pursuing it when he was at high school. In 2015, Karl won a number of categories and prizes in the National Young Horticulturist of the Year Awards.
I always tell people that when I was sort of in third form at college, horticulture and graphic design were my favourite subjects, but long story short, parents and teachers at the time didn't see a real career path in that area for me, and I was quite academic, so I really got pushed on to do accounting and economics and some quite academic subjects like that. And it wasn't really until I'd sort of been through university and done a bit of learning about myself and had a few odd jobs with different people that I really found out that working in the outdoors was what I wanted to do. And I guess it wasn't until I was nearly 21 years old that I ended up flatting with a good friend, and she really encouraged me to do what I really loved, which was horticulture. And sort of wrap up that nice story, I did end up marrying her, so yeah, it worked out quite well. I'm now the curator of the main gardens and looking after now nearly 18 plant collections. Definitely it's my experience that horticulture hasn't had a good reputation, so it's very much seen as a sort of, I guess, more of a low-paid job where it's quite monotonous tasks like weeding or maybe picking tomatoes or fruit, something like that. Obviously that's not the case. I've found here in the last 6 years working in the Botanic Gardens that the variation's pretty much endless. You know, I'm never doing the same thing every day and certainly never get tired of the work, and it's something that you'll never sort of get to the end of. Last year in July, I won the Young Amenity Horticulturist of the Year, which made me eligible to go through to the national competition, which is the Young Horticulturist of the Year, which is supported by the Royal New Zealand Institute of Horticulture through their Education Trust. So I got third in the competition overall, but I also won a multitude of sort of individual prizes. I got the best speech, I got second in the AgMart Market Innovation Award, and I also won the Primary ITO Career Development Award. So that gave me a $3,000 scholarship to spend on some training or development of some kind, which I haven't yet decided on. And also it makes me the Primary ITO Career Ambassador for the year, so hopefully I'll get some opportunities this year to encourage some young people to get into the industry. It's about 25 hectares altogether, so that includes the Wellington Botanic Garden itself, but also the Bolton Street Memorial Park, which is the regional cemetery for Wellington. One of the unique things about it is the topography. Not much of it's flat land, so stretching right from the top of the cable car all the way down almost to Parliament buildings. It's largely divided up into plant collections, so that could be living plant collections, anything from sort of an Asian collection or through to a fragrant garden, or plants based around a genus, so it could be camellias, fuchsias, things like that. In between that, there's lots of remnant bush areas as well that are sort of original back from 1800s. And obviously the usual pathways and amenities and buildings that go along with that. 1868 was sort of the founding of the Botanic Gardens, or that's when the Act was sort of put in through Parliament. But earlier than that, sort of in the 1840s, it was already in the town plan. It was part of the town belt, which is pretty unique for Wellington as well. A lot of forethought there by the people at the time. And then, yeah, on through history, it's really the foundation of a lot of what's happened in New Zealand. So a lot of the economic potential for trees was looked at here. And, you know, think about those migrants. Obviously it's a colony. There's lots of people coming to the country, lots of new people sort of, you know, learning about their country and what they can do here. So, yeah, a real place for migrants to come and learn about the place around them. And we're sort of still doing that now, still educating people and telling them about the world around them. Trial crops were done here sort of as early as 1870s and the 1880s. So forestry was sort of the winner. The Pinus radiata is the key tree that came out of those trials. But at the same time, they tried things like sugar beet, I think sugar cane as well, trying to get, you know, those crops here, plums, mulberries, all sorts of things like that. We've got about 20 plus staff here at the Botanic Gardens doing a range of jobs. I work in a team of 4, so we have myself, a couple of gardeners and an apprentice, but we work pretty closely with the other teams through here. Right now we're at the Botanic Gardens nursery. It's a pretty cool place here. There's some pretty amazing plants, most of which supplies the begonia house for the seasonal displays over there. We do some really cool stuff, like with the Tradescantia beetle here. We're breeding up some populations of that to eat Tradescantia, which is a really nasty weed around here. Some people might know it as Wandering Willy. So we, like I said, breeding up some populations that we can release in the wild. We released one last December, and in some subsequent monitoring, we've actually noticed some juveniles, which means they're breeding, so that's really good news for us. So hopefully in the future, we'll have some more populations to release and we'll see some significant damage done to that weed species. The whole reason for IPM, and especially for this breeding program, is really about reducing sort of the toxicity that we put into the environment. So obviously if this is successful, it's an alternative to weed spraying or sort of manual removal, which is either an impact on the environment or a huge labour cost for us. This is the standing out area. This is largely where all the plants are for the outdoor collections. So the ones I look after, so I've got a big section here. And largely what you see here is things that we can propagate that maybe are hard to find through nurseries these days, or little sort of special things for rockeries. Yeah, just that sort of unique stuff that we can't just buy off the shelf. I'm pretty passionate about shrubs. Things like camellias, I just love that you can sort of look at them one day and they're sort of maybe neglected for 10 years, no one's ever pruned them. And you can sort of stand in there and after sort of a couple of hours work, they look like just an amazing specimen that sort of are worthy of being in the Botanic Gardens. So that's something I really enjoy. We have a Botanic Gardens management plan which sort of looks in sort of 10 years into the future. So we're doing a little bit of planning that far ahead, but most of it's an annual planning for the following year. So we just submitted a large plant order for all of my collections and hopefully those plants will be turning up later in the year. Otherwise, we're still planting out plants that we've propagated or maybe ones that we've grown on that we brought in from the previous year. So this is sort of the time for all that action, which is a really cool time of year. We largely deal with exotic plants here at the Wellington Botanic Gardens, and Otari Wilton's bush, which is very closely aligned with us, deals with more of the native plants over there. I did a course at Welltech which sort of gave me the theory, but I really had to come here to learn the practical side of things. And I reckon you can teach anyone horticulture. It's sort of the skills around that you bring to the place that really makes you unique. And we've actually had a few people sort of come from other industries like IT or marketing that have come here and learned horticulture, and they really have a great asset sort of behind them to bring to the skill set as well. We like to do sort of multiple types of education. We have volunteer guides that come here and take people for walks about certain themes or certain plants. We have a Botanic Gardens educator who's taking more formal programs with students. And as the children's garden becomes up and running later this year, there'll be more of that happening. There'll be schools sort of coming on location a lot more and doing that kind of work. In the long term, I'd love to stay here at the Botanic Gardens. I've sort of found something I really love here. I love the interaction that we have with the public, that it's not just about growing the plants, it's actually about telling people about them and teaching them about the world around them through the medium of plants. So long term, I always tell the boss this, I sort of want his job one day, so I'd love to be the manager of the Botanic Gardens. But I mean, there's so much between sort of now and then to conquer that, yeah, I'm pretty happy where I am.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.